last week I wasn't here. I travel, as you know, I'm an evangelist. That's my primary office that I function in, which is someone who brings good news. And I'm what you call a spreader. I'm like a hummingbird. I'm always cross-pollinating. I'm always spreading the good news and taking good news and spreading it to the next place. That's just my calling. And last weekend I was in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, which is in between Berwick and Scranton. I'm consulting a church up there, and I got to meet so many wonderful people. And I was on my way there, and I got interrupted. I got detoured. And it was the Mallow Cup outlet. Are you kidding me? There's a candy outlet? Now, I saw the first sign, and I felt a prompting down deep in my heart, and I kind of ignored it. Then when I went to get gas, there was the sign again. The Mallow Cup, are you kidding me? So I went there, and I went around back, and the door was closed. I was like, come on, man. And there was a secret entrance around the other way, and I went into the store, and man, I got to tell you, they had up top there, those are called seconds. It's the stuff they don't sell. It was like $15 for all of that chocolate. So I got a whole truckload of stuff, and I brought home a half a truckload. But I couldn't help but notice on here let me see what's going on here. It's not advancing. Oh, there it is. I hit the kill button. Are we good now? Am I good now? Okay, who am I not paying here? What's going on? No, I'm kidding. So I saw on the wall there, I saw the story of Mallow Cup, and it said, during the Great Depression, two brothers decided to help their family by selling candy door to door. This is during the Great Depression, right? Chocolate was a delicacy. People don't have a whole lot of money. Things are happening, right? So they're selling this door to door. The brothers rode their bicycles all over the hometown of Altoona, Pennsylvania, selling a variety of candies made in their family's kitchen. One day, they experimented by covering marshmallows with chocolate. Anybody getting hungry already? Covering marshmallows with chocolate and made quite a mess. When Mama Boyer saw the mess, she suggested they use cupcake cups to contain their chocolate and marshmallow creation. More than 80 years later, Mallow Cups are still made with pride by Boyer Candies in Altoona, Pennsylvania. However, due to the mess, we are no longer allowed to make them in Mama's kitchen anymore. Wow, that is so fun. I read that and I thought, they made a mess. They went door to door. They sold what they made. It's kind of like how most churches started in America. People going door to door, just telling people what God had done in their lives. It's really not complicated. It really isn't. I think we complicate it at times. Christianity, this thing is a religion made about a non-religious dude. Jesus was anything but religious. And today I want to talk to you about something that's dear to my heart that I was... As I travel around the country, I see so many different streams of expressions of faith. Like this morning during worship, right? We're going for it. I just love to see a place where the worshipers just determine when they're going to be done with the song. You guys lead the worship. Do you know that? You think it's these folks, but you're leading. You're like, oh no, we're not done singing that. And now Natalie just senses it like a great worship leader, and we sing more and more. But there's so many different expressions. We have people pogoing, during worship. We have people lifting their hand. We have people sipping their coffee. We have people doing like they got people. There's all kinds of expressions. You don't know what's going in the head or the heart. But I love the diversity in the world. We're not all the same. I'm so glad there's only one of me. My wife's so glad there's only one of me. You are uniquely and wonderfully and fearfully made. And your expression of that uniqueness gives the world a gift. And I've always said this, and Resurgence is about this. The greatest gift you can give to someone is the best version of you. Because you are a reflection of love. You are love. So I want to talk to you today about God's open house. I'm going to use John, the 14th chapter. And Jesus basically said in this chapter, He said, in my Father's house, there are many rooms. In my Father's house, there are many rooms. Proverbs 24, 3-4, if you can read it, says, by wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. Through knowledge its rooms are filled with rare and beautiful treasures. God's house is filled with rare and beautiful treasures. And you are those rare and beautiful treasures. People are the crown of God's creation. He spoke everything into existence, but when He made you and me, we're handcrafted, baby. We're made in His likeness. We're made in His image. People, each one of us, are peculiar. We're weird. We're rare. Some are medium rare. Some are just well done. We're just, that's just the way we are. But they're precious. So I started to, think about this as I've been traveling for nearly 30 years. Whew. And I've seen so many different churches, big and small. And I started to think about God's house. And I realized that we have some blind spots. A blind spot is something that you don't know about yourself, but others can see. So, and companies have blind spots. People have blind spots. Churches have blind spots. That's why they hire consultants or life coaches, because they can have an objective view and see things that you and I can't see. In psychology, there's something called the Johari window, and it's a window of, how you see yourself, how others see you, how you think others see you, and how you are really seen. It's a 4-pane window. But I believe there's just one big circle window, so that's basically how God sees you that matters, right? So I started to look at this, and I started to think about this. I go to church, and someone once told me all a consultant is somebody who borrows your watch to tell you what time it is for you. And it's because of blind spots. So today, I started to think about God's house, and Jesus said, in my Father's house, there are many rooms. And I started to think about the different rooms that I believe are missing in a lot of God's houses throughout the country. I believe the first room that I believe is missing or that we need to unlock is a panic room. It's a panic room. It's a room where someone can go. Now I'm talking metaphorically, right? Not physical rooms, right? Because the panic room would be rubber walls, and but we need a room where people who are freaking out because of a traumatic event, a sudden death in their home, or a sudden loss in job, or an operation coming, and they're just panicking. We need to have a room for that and be okay with that. And be okay if they come back next Sunday and are still in a panic. It's okay. It's okay. In my Father's house, there are many rooms. And a panic room for people to come and feel okay. Because honestly, when your pet dies, you don't feel like coming to church, right? When you lose your job or when your marriage is on the brink, the last thing you want to do sometimes is sit in a room with a bunch of people that are praising God, and some of them are wearing a smile where deep down inside they're panicking. So embracing those, and all of us have been in a panic at one point in our life, and most of us will be in a panic again. So I think a panic room is very, very important. We have to also remember this. With God's house, it's God's house. It's our Father's house. It's not your house. Not my house. Not the pastor's house, the worship leader's house, not the usher's house. It's not a Republican house, not a Democrat house, not a man house, not a woman house, not a straight house, not a gay house, not a Pentecostal house, not a Catholic house. It's the Father's house. It's not a religious house. It's a Father's house. So I started to realize that. It's a house that has no locks. It's a house that has so many different entrances and exits so people can come and go as they please in many different ways to connect with God. That's why we have couches out there and chairs, and so that people can come and connect with God in their own space at their own place. It's the Father's house. It's not, we look in the Bible, and it's easy to read the Bible and attach a meaning to it and read into something and take a verse and make it a dogma or make it this is how it is. When we think about Jesus, and I'm going to a worship conference in a month that I'm speaking at, I'm leading worship at, and worship conferences are great. They're also weird. I'll just be honest with you. Most people don't know, but you serve two gods. There's the church God and there's the conference God. Okay? The conference God, the church God is like a father. The conference God is like Father Christmas. Okay, people go to a conference and somebody yee-yays over them or something, and they just feel called. I'm going to be the next Joel Osteen. I'm going to be the next Joyce Meyer. Then they come back to the church God in the local church, and they say to their pastor and leaders, God did this for me in this event. I'm quitting my job. I'm doing all this, blah, blah, blah. And the church God, which is more like a father, says, well, you very well may be the next Joel Osteen, or you may very well be the next Joyce Meyer, but right now you're an idiot. I mean, you just... You're not faithful. You don't come on time. You don't learn you're not being a stir. Where's the connection here? Right? And so I think it's funny, but at these conferences, we all the songs are about breakthrough and moving mountains and stuff like, and oh, that's wonderful. But what I try to do with Resurgence is get people to own their stuff again. Not to put too much on God, not to blame too much on the devil. How many know the devil, some people think the devil's in everything. Denzel Washington just had an interview on what happened with Chris Rock and Will Smith, and he basically said, well, when the devil moved, devil got nothing to do with it. The devil doesn't cause you to choose. He may influence you in some way, but, so... Some people are like, here a devil, there a devil, everywhere a devil. The devil's got me. And I think probably need to have a deliverance service, to cast some people out of demons. Boy, that went right over you. You foul demon, come out of that woman. One dude said, yeah, I live with that. No, I'm just kidding. You doing all right today? You doing all right today? Remember, I'm not a pastor. He'll straighten it out next week. All right? So we've been taught, we look at verses in the Bible like the story of Mary and Martha. And we see, Martha's in the kitchen, she's cooking, she's busy. She's saying, Jesus, come on, man, I need some help. Don't you even care? And Jesus is like, well, look, Mary has done the wiser thing. She's anointing oil on my feet. She's rubbing my feet. And listen, there are Mary churches and there are Martha churches. I've been to them both. Mary churches, they forget to pick you up at the airport. Because they're just everything, they're floating on, gold dust and fairies, and God is, but they, and then there's the Martha churches that are so structured that they probably wouldn't recognize God if he moved, and if he wanted to move, he had to take a number and wait in line, right? But we need both. There is, let me say it this way, the oil that Martha used to cook is just as special as the oil Mary used to anoint Jesus' feet. Long before you all came here, we had Marthas here early, preparing this building, preparing the beverages and the coffee. I'm so grateful for Marthas. And I think we do a disservice if we are unkind to Marthas, because without Marthas, stuff ain't going to get done. So we need both Mary and Martha. It's God's house. It's God's house. It's God's house that's welcome to prodigals and elder brothers. Even prodigals that say, I have messed up. I don't belong. Or elder brothers that say, yeah, you've messed up. You don't belong. I should have got my inheritance a long time ago. And the Father says, listen, you're both wrong. and you both are equally loved, and you both belong. It's the Father's house. Wow. And it's a house for all. In the Father's house, Judas is just as welcome as John. Because we don't think of these people. We're kind of unkind to Judas, Martha, Samson. They all had a role and a purpose to play. Judas's destiny was to be a betrayer. Think about that. The Father's house isn't a bunch of saints that used to be sinners. It's a house of saints that are still sinning and needs God grace, right? It's His house. Well, I'm usually a guest minister at places, so I can come in as a secret shopper when I go to churches. And this last church was wonderful. I like to hang out, but it's not all that common when I show up to a church. If people don't know I'm a guest minister, I don't get a lot of hellos. And if I do, they're surface. Hi, how are you doing? Then I go into worship and we're singing He Knows My Name. You know that song. And nobody asked me my name, Tony. So I start to think about this, and we sing I'm a friend of God, but nobody really befriended me and asked me, hey, where are you from? Good to have you here. What do you do for a living? Engaging. And that's what the Malacup brothers did when they went door to door. They had something for people. They were bringing some sweetness to a sour life, but they were engaging. And I think the body of Christ should be the most engaging and interesting people on the planet. But sometimes we're boring. All we listen to is Christian this and Christian that and read Christian this and read Christian. There is a whole new world out there that the Spirit of God is in that we have shut out. And that's what Jesus did to the religious tradition. He said, oh, you think this is how this goes? Oh, no. Let me show you. I'll do whatever I want, when I want, and how I want to do it. I'm so glad for COVID. Because it used to be when you go to a church, especially Pentecostal church, you got a hug. It's like an unspoken implied. And a lot of people aren't huggers. Maybe they've got a history of some abuse in their back. You don't know. But when we kind of assume the one size fits all to people, I think we miss other aspects of God and God's love. There's so many expressions. And there's this one lady, I remember I go to this church all the time. And as soon as I go in, where's my hug? Where's my hug? And I'm like, can't we just say hi? I don't want. That's just. So after service, people are like, I won't hug you, David. Like, I'll hug some people, those that I trust. Church, I believe, should be a safe place for everyone. But if we're obsessed with fixing people immediately all the time, do you think that's safe? Because nobody feels loved when you're judging them. It's just interference. Moses in the Old Testament made 6 cities of refuge, 6 places where people who had got into trouble, people who were running for their life could go and feel safe and be safe until a proper trial could be arranged. I just want you to know, if you're afraid, you feel overwhelmed, you feel stressed out, you feel hurt, there is a room for you in the Father's house. It's all right. You're in a panic. It's okay. Next room I think we need to have is a messy room. A messy room. I mean, there's kids back there going, yeah, that's what I've been saying all along. A messy room is a room where we're just trying to figure things out. It's a room where your life isn't all together. I got 3 kids, the different mom. I got this, and I've been struggling. I had a relapse, and it's okay. It's okay. A messy room for people who are just, I don't know what I believe yet about this God thing. I don't know if the Bible's the actual truth. And we've got to be so careful not to just jump in, fix what people believe, and tidy them up. I think the reason why we're so obsessed with tidying people up is that it says more about our discomfort than theirs. Jesus, listen, my mom's house is so pristine. I mean, there are churches I go to. It doesn't look like anybody lives in them. My mom's house is so pristine. Everything has a place. Then the grandkids come over. Listen, Jesus is not safe. When He comes in and does stuff, He messes around with all of the way we put things. He's not house trained. He's not one of us. He's not a Christian. He's not born again. He's not a Republican. He's Jesus. And when we tidy things up too quickly, I think we deprive people of the process of healing, of revelation, of transforming from one stage to another. It's okay if you're messy right now. You can be happy, yet sad. You can be in faith and be doubtful. You can be beautiful and feel ugly. You can feel ugly and you're ugly. No, I mean, you know what I mean. Always checking to see if you're listening. All right? You can love people and at the same time be sick of them. That's why Jesus often withdrew. I think after a while, He just needed to recharge. I'm an introvert by nature. I really am. It means I recharge by getting away. My wife's an introvert. And you party animals think that we need fixed. And we don't. And we're afraid to go to your parties unless we know somebody in a corner we can hang out with and eat and leave. But if you feel confused, curious, without a clue, mixed up, whatever it is, there's a room for you in the Father's house. I think we also need an X-ray room. I think we need a room where we can talk real and straight ahead to each other and not be offended and go to another church until you're offended again and you go to another church and you move away to go to another church, and that never fixes the root issue. And I think sometimes we just bubble wrap things, and many times our church criticisms, our church issues, our job issues, our family issues are really personal issues. And we drag them up into a house which is here for our care. And I think there should be an X-ray room where we ask people, dude, what's really going on? What's really, are you jealous? Are you envious? Have you been hurt? We don't need to use bubble wrap. I struggle with that when I consult worship teams all over the country. Because I'm a visitor so I can talk straight, but I have to do the positive minus positive thing, right? Hey man, you're a great drummer. And, not really. You're okay. You could get better if you applied yourself. Hey, you're a singer. You're singing too much. You could do this. You could. And then you got to encourage them in that. I get that. We all have egos. But we should have a room that we trust and love each other enough where we can say, what's going on? And it's a safe place where you can just, I'm afraid. I'm scared. Here's the root issue. I believe an X-ray room is very important. MRI level discussions. We get real personal. I mean, Jesus did that when Peter said, I love you to the death. I'll never betray you. Jesus like, oh, no. I know you love me, but you're going to do this. You're going to betray me. It's okay. It's okay. So, if you want to discover your deeper needs, treat those hidden wounds, really come out with it, there is a room for you in the Father's house. I think the next room is a playroom. Come on. I mean, this house does this really, really well. I think we need to play. I think we should have a room to be goofy, to be jokesters, to be pranksters, to laugh, to joke, to have fun. There's a reason why Billy Joel said, I'd rather laugh with the sinners and cry with the saints, because we always crying. I'm going to this worship conference, and I gave them my set list, and they're like, well, we really want to get into the presence of the God. What, presence of God? What? Because I'm singing fast songs? We're not in the presence of God? Because we've boxed in, oh, slow songs are really worshiping at His feet. Well, praise songs are about having fun. I think we need to have more fun. I think we need a playroom. It's vital. God has a whole range of moods. He does. And it's okay. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to laugh at each other. I mean, God has a sense of humor. Look at the platypus. Look at the giraffe. What was going on that day?
Right.
Hey, we're gonna make this horse-looking thing long neck, and we're gonna. I mean, think about it. God has a sense of humor. Listen, we don't stop playing because we get old. We get old because you can still be young at heart. You can still be young at mind. You can still be young in thoughts, young in beliefs. It's okay to let that out. It's okay to let Jesus out and let Him run around for a while. Okay? We can have fun. I think another room we need to have in the Father's house is a changing room. A room where people are transforming from a former version of themselves to a next and newer and better version of themselves. A changing room where it's a little messy, but we support and encourage the fact that you are changing, your interests are changing, your beliefs, your outlook. What you want to do is change. Oh, did you hear about so and so? They're no longer playing guitar. They've served, and now their life, they're exploring other interests. So and so, he's to park cars. He can't sing. She can't sing. Not just in the church, but in life. I think we should encourage, shall I say it? I think we should encourage personal reinvention, evolution, not in the scientific sense. I got to justify that word because you all think I'm an atheist if I say it. I'm just kidding. A playroom, a changing room. It's, if you're in transition, becoming something new or whatever, there's room in the Father's house for you. And finally, a spare room. I think we should have a spare room for those that aren't staying. For those that come for a season. Who knows what they're coming from or running from? And we have a spare room for them. We have a place where they can come and just take. Because all of us have been takers at one point or another in our life. I think when you sit at a table at a house long enough and you take and take and take, I think eventually the longer you stay, you want to give back, right? But there are people, I've been there many times, where they don't feel comfortable here or there. See, we're really good at new births. People that come and they just, accept Christ. We're really good at raising new babies. We're even really good at adoption. And those of you that have taught me have phenomenal, amazing love. But I'm talking even spiritually speaking. People coming from other churches or but what I'm talking about here is, metaphorically, is foster care. For people that are coming and they're not staying. And if we're not careful, sometimes we can limit our love, limit what we give because they're only here a short time. They're a boarder. But you know what's important about a spare room? Is because someone who comes through and there is a spare room for them and they're loved and they're encouraged and they're just built up. 5 years down the road, when somebody mentions the word church, their heart warms and they look back at Living Water Family Church and said, wow, I was only there for a year. I was only there for 4 months. I was only there for 3 years. Whatever. But oh my gosh, those people there, that place, what happened there propelled me to where I am now. Some people need to come and hide in order to figure things out. It's okay. It's okay. If you're just passing through, you're not sure where to go or what's next, there's a spare room here for you. There's room in the Father's house. I believe that making room for God to move is nothing more than opening the door to more rooms in His house. And the more a church or your vision or your circle of love grows, the more rooms that will be added on, because people are unique. Come one, come all, at your own pace, in your own space, because, after all, it's the Father's house, right? It's the Father's. And what a house it is. It's unlike any house in the world. There are some really expensive houses in the world. Here's the top 3 most expensive houses. This is Villa Leopolda. It was built in 1902 for a Belgian king, Leopold II. He built it. It's on the French Riviera. It was built for his mistress. She must have been some cook. You know what I'm saying? In 2008, was sold to actually Ukrainian, but a Russian billionaire for $750 million. Has 80,000 square feet of space. That's the 3rd most expensive house ever built. Number 2 is Antilia. It was built in 2010, owned by Mukesh Ambani, richest person in India. This thing is 400,000 square feet. It's got 27 floors, designed to, how could something that expensive look that ugly? Really? Come on. You couldn't do something a little bit more creative? But it's got 6 floors just for parking. It's got its own helicopter pad. It even has a special room, a snow room that spits out snowflakes when the heat gets too much in India. Incredible. And that is valued at $2.6 billion. That's not the most expensive house. What do you think it is? How about this? Buckingham Palace in England, $4.9 billion. Some say it's $6.7 billion now because of inflation. This contains 775 rooms, 240 bedrooms, 19 staterooms, 92 offices, 78 bathrooms, because when you got to go, you got to go. And a lot of beautiful gardens. That is the most expensive home right now to date. But it's not the most expensive home ever built. The most expensive home ever built was Solomon's Temple. Location was likely in Jerusalem. It was built almost 1,000 years before Christ. It took 7 years to build. It stood for 410 years. It was built by 70,000 carriers and 80,000 stone cutters. The cost to build it, wow. A young engineering student figured out what it would cost to build it today. He went through everything. He read the Bible according to plan. He estimated, he compared it, right? This was in 2006. How much do you think that was worth? Come on. Anybody? Do I got a billion? The 4 billion, 3? I'm not. All right. 100 billion? $140 billion. $140 billion. But wait! There's more, Johnny. If you consider the price of gold right now, silver and bronze, because this thing was made of so much stuff, cedar, precious fabrics. If you consider the current price of gold, just the gold alone, $194 trillion in gold alone. Another $22 trillion in silver. So an approximately minimum grand total of $220 trillion. God's house. God's open house. You know something? That's still not the most expensive, valued house ever built. Jesus replied, "Anyone who loves me will obey my teachings. My Father will love them, and we will come to them and make our home with them." You see, God wasn't satisfied living in a $220 trillion edifice built of man's hands. He moved out so that He can live in the homes of mankind's heart. You are worth more than any number. Next time you look in the mirror and say, I'm worth at least 220 trillion. God's open house is you. God's open house is you. And as we enlarge our circle of love for those that are disconnected, those that are dislike us, we're opening those rooms in our own house. And therefore, opening our rooms to this in this church and in our home. To have that panic room, to have that messy room, to have that playroom, to have that x-ray room, to have that spare room, to enlarge our circle of love. And just as the Mallow Cup boys remind me of the early church, that's how churches were started. That's how they grew. It wasn't through marketing, branding, wasn't through great music, although that helps. Wasn't through dynamic preaching. It was one-on-one, two-on-two connection, seeing people for who they are. And as I travel in 30 years of churches, I can count on my hands the churches that actually do that. Because we say it is bad, it is disappointing to a certain degree, but culture and conditioning have a lot to do with it. I think also people are just terrified how to witness their faith, how to share their faith, because we put a one-size-fits-all. Here's what you got to do. Here's to take them down the Romans road. Believe in your heart. And now you got to get into good. We have industrialized everything. One size fits all. And God's just telling you, hey, just open those rooms in your heart. Just be my presence to people. I don't know, maybe you're here today and you're saying, well, God's house is where He lives, and if God's house is me, why don't I feel like it? Why do I feel like a big vacancy? I just want to say that God wants to make His home in you. He has clearly stated it. He said, look, I'm standing at the door of your house, and I'm knocking. If you hear my voice and you open that door, I'll come in and we'll hang out and we'll have dinner together. There's nothing that bonds people more than breaking bread, right? The word in the Greek is diaponeo. It means to take the principal thing, to become the principal thing. Maybe you're here today and you've really never opened that door and said, yeah, God, make this house your house. Refurnish it. Rearrange some. I got rooms. I got stuff. You're welcome to come in there. I think it's very important. By God making His home in us, we can open those rooms. We can open our homes to others. Would you bow with me? Father, I thank You that it's okay if we're in a panic. It's okay if things are a mess. It's okay if we've buried stuff under the surface. It's okay. We want to play. We're in the midst of change. It's okay if we're just passing through. Lord, You say that in Your Father's house there are many rooms, and You have room for me. In this moment, I want you to know there is room for you in the Father's house. No matter what you've done, no matter where you've been, no matter what you thought, you are not your thoughts, you're not your feelings, you're not your past. Things may have ended, things may have been history, but it's not your history. You're not history. So today, He's knocking. Maybe He's knocking on rooms of your heart that you have not let Him in because it's messy. Maybe it's the house that you're in that He's never really come in. With every head bowed, and we're just taking a moment of silence. I know music helps, and I know, but all I want right now is just a moment of silence for you to talk to God. Greet Him at that door, whatever door it is of your life, in your heart house, if it's anger, if it's disappointment, if it's insecurity, or it's salvation, whatever it is. I want you to hear His voice and make that decision, whether or not you want to open the door. Father, your word says that you're nearer than the mention of your name. Whether someone came close to that door, opened it halfway, looked through the peephole, opened it wide, you will not knock it down. But as we choose to let you in, Father, I pray right now, you inhabit, you rearrange, you do a makeover like none other. And above all, as you connect us with you and your love, you connect us with each other to make room for each other. Because surely, God, in your house there's many rooms. And no matter who we are, there's room for us. Amen.
called my name. Here's a newer song, and I think everybody is getting to like it, right? Speak to the mountains. Why would I worry when giants come calling my name? My God is so much bigger than the troubles I face. Why would I hunger for power or riches or fame? My God is so much better than all of these things. And I won't be shaken. I won't be moved. My God is faithful. His promise is true. So I speak to the mountains. Oh, it's time to move. My God is bigger, better, stronger, greater than you. My enemies scatter, 'cause they know the battle is done. My God is stronger, the victory is already won. He died for my ransom and rose up on the third day. My God is greater than death, hell, and the grave. I won't be shaken. I won't be moved. My God is so